Hood's up, you know something's up.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, basically, I'm gonna show you guys exactly how to diagnose an alternator problem and what actually is going on with my alternator in general. Last night, coming back from my buddy's house, basically I started my car and I noticed that if I turn my headlights on, my radio kind of dimmed down a lot and then it started to shut off and on. So I was like, that's kind of weird. I've never really had this problem before, so I was like, weird, whatever. So I basically just turned my radio off and then drove my car to my buddy's house. And coming back from my buddy's house, I basically hung out for like an hour or two or so. And then after that, I tried to go and turn on the Z. And when I tried to turn on the Z, it would not start. Like it was a dead battery. So I was like, that's really weird because I didn't leave the lights on or whatever, so whatnot. I had him try to jump the car for about, I think it was like 20 minutes, we tried to jump the car. We finally got the car started. So I was like, okay, cool. Luckily, he lived on a hill. As I touched the brakes, my ABS light would come on and then all the lights would dim and the car wanted to die. So I was like, it's really weird to me. I was like, I've never seen that before. Like, I don't know why my ABS light's on. Like, this doesn't make any sense. So going from there, as the car was dying, it died. I pop started the car really quick just so I could keep it moving. And once I pop started it, the car was running okay. But if I let off the gas, the car would die. So I basically stayed on the gas as far as I could. Unfortunately, last night I was gonna get on footage for you guys, but I was so frustrated. My car finally broke down about like 2 miles in, and I couldn't get it started, or 2 miles away from my house. I couldn't get it started. There was not enough incline to pop start it anymore. So I put it on the curb. And I basically walked 2 miles to my house, got my jump pack, and then walked back, jumped the car probably twice in 2 miles to get it back to the house. So now I finally have it back at my house, and I'm gonna show you guys exactly what's going on. As of right now, the car's running. So, revs up fine, and look. You can see the lights, they go dim if I stay off the gas. If I get on the gas, they brighten up to where they're supposed to be illuminated. Also, if I stay on the gas, right now my radio is totally off. If I stay on the gas long enough, my radio will turn back on. If I press the brake, watch. I'm literally just tapping the brake. The revs go down, the ABS lights come on, but if I give it gas, ABS light goes away. So I'm pretty sure it's something to do with the charging of the alternator. So I went to my car, or I went to the battery now, right? So I have my multimeter right here. So typically you want to test with your multimeter exactly what your battery voltage is going to be when the car is running, okay? When the car is running, the battery voltage should be around 13.5-ish area. And as you can see, I'm only running at 9.4. So I'm pretty sure the alternator's dead. I'm gonna shut it down and we're gonna get into actually getting this alternator put in. Before I get into anything, I just want to thank Robbie out for the hookup. Obviously, again, he's always hooking me up. I owe him so much. He actually had a spare alternator, so I'm just going to clean this up really quick. You're looking for an alternator, either new or refurbished. Like, most parts stores don't have them in stock, like on hand, and you have to wait a few days or whatnot. And since this is the daily now, I kind of need it. So again, Robbie, thank you so much, dude. Like, you're always helping me out. You're always coming in the clutch. So thank you so much. Giving her a good wipe down really quick, and then we'll start working on the car. We gotta jack the car up and put some jack stands under there, and then I'll show you what steps we gotta get into to actually replacing it. Okay guys, so once you have your car jacked up and the actual jack stands under there, what you're gonna wanna do next is, since we're gonna be dealing with an electrical component, you're gonna wanna undo your battery. So take your ground off, make sure it's not touching anything, and then go from there. Now that you guys see that my ground is off, so now what I'm gonna go do is I need to get under the car, and what we need to do is take off all your splash guard down here. So this plastic guard here, you're gonna have a couple of like 10mm bolts all over the place. So there's one here, there's gonna be some back here on the cross member, and then also a lot of people forget because they start pulling it, but this one right here, a little 10mm, you can tell by this like bracket that's holding this splash guard up, it's gonna be that one. So you're gonna have this one, and then on the adjacent side, the same thing. And then you'll be able actually to drop this splash guard. We have that splash guard off now. So now you can see your sway bar here. So this is like your high pressure power steering line here, your sway bar, your coolant line, and then like your coolant line bracket here or whatnot. The easiest way how I found to get this, so your alternator is right here. Right here, this is the alternator bracket. The best way that I found out how to be able to slip this out of the way is gonna be basically taking off your sway bar and then moving this coolant hose forward, and you'll be able to kind of drop it like you still have to shimmy it, but you have to like drop it forward and then bring it out, and you should be able to get it out. The alternator is pretty simple. All you have to do is loosen the belt, okay? So your tensioner's here. You're gonna loosen this, take the belt off, and then there's 2 bolts. One at the top of the alternator, which is kind of hard to get to, and then one at the bottom. The one at the bottom that I'm actually speaking of is actually this one right here, and it just connects the alternator to the bracket. So whenever you tighten it or loosen it, it like sways the alternator side to side. The top one again is, I think it's a 17 millimeter or 18 millimeter, but it's all the way up top. And again, like you can see, my hand can barely get up there because the sway bar. This is gonna be a reason why you kind of want to drop the sway bar. The next step you're gonna have to do is you're gonna want to take off this bracket here that sits right here that holds your coolant line hose in place. You want to take that bracket off. I'll tell you a reason why in a couple minutes. Then going on from there, what we want to do is we want to move our sway bar. Due to the fact that the alternator is pretty big and how the sway bar is set up, you won't be able to squeeze it between here. So what you have to do, it's actually pretty simple, is there's just 2 14 millimeter bolts right here where your bushing sits on your sway bar. All you have to do is take out one of them. So typically I think it's the front or the back one towards the back of the car. The front one can stay because how the bracket sits is, it sits like this. So this back or the front bolt, like to the front of the car, you don't have to take out because all this part's gonna do is slip right in it, like into it. And then this one here, that's the only bolt that you're gonna have to take out for the sway bar. So now, as you can see, I took that bolt out, did that, and I can move the sway bar back a bit. And I didn't undo the end link or anything, so it's literally just this. So now it opened up a good amount of space, and then I can move this out of the way, and that's definitely should be plenty of space to do that. So how to test this really quick, if you really wanted to test it, is what you can do is you can grab the alternator, your new alternator that you have, or like the one whatever you're gonna put in, and you can try to just place it through here. If you can place it through here, that means this one will come out. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. So after testing it out, it will fit. It's gonna be a tight fit, and you may scratch your sway bar a little bit. If you don't want to scratch your sway bar, what you can do is actually take out this hose here and you'd be fine. But if you don't want to have to drain your system or anything, this is the best way that I found out that you can do it. So I'm going to push the hose as close to the radiator as possible. I'm going to try to squeeze it through here where this bend is. And what you want to do is with your alternator here, your studs here, like where the power wire and everything is going to hook up, you want to angle the alternator kind of so the stud like starts on this side of the car, and it'll kind of wrap around. So when you're pushing, you're gonna turn the alternator, so it's gonna kind of go like that, and the stud will kind of rub against this and push this way, and then you'll be able to squeeze it right on up. Be wary of your coolant hose just so you don't puncture it, and be careful of your peacock here. You don't want to break that tab or anything like that. So I moved mine a little bit out of the way just so I can get the alternator in there a little bit easier. I'm just gonna loosen up my belt here, take that back bolt off of this so it won't be connected to the alternator on the bottom, and then we have to start working on our top bolt. I got the top bolt out, so this is how big the top bolt looks like. You wanna make sure that your lock washer stays on the head, and this is your bolt to it. So this actually holds itself against the alternators. So when I'm actually putting it back in, I'll show you guys how to, like a little trick to keep it in place so you're not really gonna run into any issues. But it is kind of tough to be able to hold this in place and screw it in to get these to catch later on. Once you get that out, you can actually kind of move the alternator up and back, like side to side, and then that's how you're gonna pop your belt off. So if you pop your belt off, just move it out of the way, And then what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to loosen up this bracket here. I'm pretty sure it's another 14 millimeter. This is your adjusting bracket also. You're gonna have to loosen that up just so you can actually get, you could take it off. I'm probably just gonna do that. I'm probably just gonna take this like J bracket off just because it's gonna be a lot easier to bring down your alternator, because if you try to bring it down right now, as you can see, it's kind of touching the J bracket. So obviously you're not gonna be able to pull down the alternator because that's in the way. So let's get that bracket off. So as you guys can see, I actually got this off. I didn't take the bracket off. All I did was loosen it a little bit just to make the J bracket kind of like wiggly, I would say, just loose. And then I was able to get this off. So before you can actually pull this out, you gotta make sure that you go in the back and you disconnect the power wire and the 2 ground wires. I got the new one in. The best way that I found out how to get it in and out is definitely by pushing this up and above the alternator when you're pulling it out. And when you pull it out, don't try to pull it out by the peacock or by this side. Come a little bit under the shroud here, like towards the middle of the car. It'll slip right out. And then however you slip it out, just put the new one in that way. So I got that in. I just spent a good amount of time just getting all the cables all bolted up and all that. So it's all good to go. So now basically I have to mount it up top and put that top bolt through. So that's the game plan. So how to do that, you can actually have the alternator like put it up on the bracket and it'll stay there because it's kind of like pressed, like you can see like the washers here, it kind of presses into it. So it'll definitely stay up there. And then what you want to do is put the front of the bolt through, fully through first. That's gonna be your best bet. And then the trick that I learned is that if you're under the car, you want to wrap your hand. So basically where your inner tie rod is, you want to wrap your hand around through the back. And then this is how I actually connected the wires and such to the alternator right here. So when you have your hand through here, you're going to feel your wires. The bracket where it bolts up is literally right there. So you're going to have to make sure that you have that special nut on the back, and you're gonna have to hold it there with your finger until you get a couple threads in, and until it will catch on the back of the alternator. And then once you're good, then you can just tighten it down, and then you'll tighten up your J bracket, and then you'll put your belt on, and then you'll put the adjuster screws back in together on the J bracket, and then tighten her down. You should be good. Okay guys, so once you reverse all those steps, you put your you basically tighten down that J bracket, you tighten down the alternator, you make sure your belt's on nice and tight. And then going from there, in the meantime of doing all that, making sure that all the plugs are connected, all the grounds are connected, I charged my battery while I was doing all that. And then I went ahead, and put on my ground to the battery, and then I grabbed my multimeter, and that's what we're reading. So 13.6, 13.5, around that area. That's where you want to be at. So it was definitely the alternator was my problem. So thanks Robbie for hooking me up, and we're done. So I'm gonna let basically what I'm gonna do is let the alternator kind of charge the battery back up. So let this idle a little bit. I'll drop it off the jack stands. But yeah, this is the old one. I have no idea if it's OEM or not. I think it is because it's got a Nissan tag on it. But yep, she's shot. She's old. And you got to remember too, right? I had a power steering leak for a while, basically, that I didn't really know until like when we did the whole rebuild on the motor. And yeah, so that could have been it. It could just be 20, 30 years old. I don't know. So, but it's all good now, and I'm super pumped. So practically everything has been replaced on this freaking car now. Like basically everything. It's insane. So, before I take off the multimeter and such, what I'm gonna do is go in here and remember the issue was, well, that's good. My radio's actually working now. So if I hit the brakes, the car would die. Nothing. Now I have like a brake light bulb out. I think I know exactly which one it is because when I took it out of the third brake light, I kind of just pulled the bulb out and it was kind of loose, so I probably got to just tighten up those clips. But everything is good now, if you can see. The car doesn't die, the ABS light doesn't come on, my radio doesn't turn off if I hit the brakes, so it was definitely the alternator. So hopefully you guys really enjoyed this tutorial on how to diagnose an alternator issue and also how to replace it with everything still in the car and doing minimal work on actually having to put it back in the car. I want to thank you guys for all the support lately, for the drifting content, for the how-to content, and just being there for us. I mean, I really appreciate everything. So for the next video that I'm planning on doing, I'm going to be working on the air conditioning unit on the actual Z, and I'm going to be converting it from R12 to R134A. So make sure you guys stay tuned. And if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button up in the corner. And if you guys are looking for any additional content, click one of these links here. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.